Okay, good. So Kimmy's the teacher. I'm the student. This is our midterm interview. So as the teacher, Kimmy's going to ask me the same questions I'm going to ask all my students next week. But this is to get a trial run. So whenever you're ready, go ahead and start with the first question.
All right. What is your Quest experience like?
My Quest experience has been, it started in the summer, and I started thinking about that I wanted to do a project-based class. And I kind of put some pieces together. I had read a bunch of different ideas, and I was drawing from my outdoor ed experience, and I wanted to make something where it wasn't theoretical, but we had a class where we did something and made something.
So it's like a team thing.
Yeah, for me, doing like a team thing is a big deal.
Well, what part did you take on in this project?
Okay, so my part in this whole thing was to create a format where any person could join a class, where everybody could take a part of a much larger piece. So I had a bunch of open-ended projects in mind, and then we could divide those up for what students were interested in. So my part in this was to create a structure so students could do the project and have an opportunity to show their competencies along the way, because I figured there'd be some reading and some writing to make anything happen.
What were your first impressions?
I was super excited about it at the very beginning. I had all these different ideas. I had a bunch of things that I wanted to make. I wanted to get people and just go and leave the classroom and do things the way they hadn't been done before. I was super excited about that. And so one of the things that I did is I got like my supervisors, like the principal and the assistant principal, and I got school board members involved in this thing. And so that once I opened the door and told them that I was doing this thing, that there would be no turning back, like that I would have to do the things that I said I would do.
So after you learn what you know now,
and then
what are you going to do now?
Okay, so now the things that I know now is that students were not as excited on day like 25 or 30 that I was. Once I started turning pieces of the project over, it started moving a lot slower. And so I was coming to the spot where like I couldn't show where people were working on competencies. I couldn't show what they were reading. I couldn't show the language skills that they were picking up. I knew people were doing stuff, but I couldn't show it. So one of the things that I learned is it would be good to have certain benchmarks, certain check-in points, certain assignments, certain areas to demonstrate, like moments of reflection. What I've done since then, or what I've done to try and adjust for that, is that I've done a little bit of research, and I know that building a timeline would be a good idea. Having, we need to show this by this date. We need to have these pieces in place by this other date. So I know that now.
What's next?
So the next piece for me is to look at ways for students to demonstrate their competencies. So you're experiencing one right now. I'm looking at, if I do an interview, we can actually talk through the work that we've done. This might be a really good way to demonstrate evidence of the work that we've done. So that's my next move. I'm hoping this one works. No, they keep going. See how it breaks down into the competencies? Let's talk about competencies.
What have you read this quarter?
Oh my gosh, I've read a lot this quarter. I've broken my reading into two parts. I have literature and I have nonfiction. And for the literature, I've read Boys in the Boat, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, which I have about 100 pages left to go. I read a book called Ranger Confidential and a book called Ishmael, which is kind of like a philosophy book about a gorilla that speaks to this guy. It's a little weird, but I've noticed that there seems to be a philosophy trend in my literature reading. And then in terms of nonfiction, I've been reading a lot about how to write proposals. I looked at like how to write a proposal for Dartmouth College. I looked at how to write a proposal for Penn State. And so I wanted to see if I can fold in those university level pieces into our class. I read a review of research on project-based learning, because we're in a project-based class. And I've read a lot of student competencies recently. And so for each one of these things, I started looking at like pulling the key ideas and details out of each one so that I can apply them to my classes.
Fair enough. Let's go through the I can statements for writing.
Oh, okay. So I don't have the list right in front of me, but the things that I can do is I can pull out the key ideas and details. For example, with a project-based learning, I can take the idea of timelines, and I know that that's important now. I can talk about what's explicit and what's inferred. What was explicitly stated is you need to prepare. What that really means is you're never prepared enough for any of these classes. So I feel that I learned a ton. But I've got a long ways to go, and I had no idea that it would feel this way at day 40.
Well, what can you do with language?
So with language, I've picked up a lot of reusing of language. I've picked up the idea of a forecast. I've always used forecast in terms of weather or like it's sports. But when it comes to forecasting, I now use that in terms of writing. I use that at the end of my introductions. I've used a lot of the Avid language. When it comes to like anchor statements, I fold that into my writing. I've started to pick up a lot of terms that I've used in other ways, and I'm applying them differently, especially when it comes to writing.
What competency do you think you've reached for speaking and listening?
Oh, I think you're experiencing it right now. I've had spent a lot of time talking about making videos and having examples, and so that this classroom can exist in day to day and maybe in a digital format. You know that we skipped one?
We did.
We did.
What one?
I wanted to talk about writing for a little while.
What about writing?
All right. I've done a ton of writing. I've written like a ton of mini lessons. And so what I've done with the mini lessons, and I'm super excited about this, it's a little clunky, but I'm super excited about it, is so with all those videos, that we talked about during speaking and listening, for a lot of those videos, I scripted out what it is that I wanted to say. And I had my main idea, and I had my supporting details, and I had an introduction, and I had a body, and I had a conclusion. I put them all together in each little mini lesson. So I would have a big introduction for the whole piece. And then for each little video, there'd be an introduction, and then there'd be my evidence, and there'd be a conclusion. So I kept doing a lot of explanation writing. It allowed me to put the reading that I had done to work for me. So I could bring in the key ideas, so I can bring in the inferences, so I can look at my craft and structure, that it wasn't accidental. All right.
Ready to start the project?
I'm always ready to start the project. There's one last thing I need you to ask me about, though. You see the one on the bottom of the page?
After looking at your goals, to what degree were you prepared to meet those goals?
And that's the thing. When I started out at the beginning of the year, I was super excited. Now I'm less excited. I felt like on day 1, 2, and 3, I couldn't be more thrilled to be in this class. Now, as we approach day 40, I'm nervous. I'm nervous about my level of confidence. I'm nervous about if I've provided enough opportunities for enough people to show what it is they know. I'm nervous that I want to provide more instruction, but I don't know if I need to. I just don't have the confidence I did on day 1. And so those are the things that make me nervous. So the degree of success, on day 1, I was at a 5. On day 40, I'd put myself at a 3, which then cycles me back to what I said at the beginning is like, I want to do more with timelines and benchmarks so that I can feel more confident, and maybe students can too.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a good interview.